And the big thing with the hydro utility, they're like, well, we don't have enough power. We can give you non-firm allotments. We can allow you to run and curtail when we need you to because we need the power for heat. So we can go into these places and we don't put any more load on. The coldest day of the year is when the grids are at risk in Labrador versus many grids are in the hot summers. But we don't have a lot of air conditioning here because we don't really need it. So they're here saying, well, we might need you to curtail your data center because we need heat. Okay, well, we're the heat. And in the summer, the unit dumps inside, more kilowatt hours are being consumed on the same grid, no extra maintenance. We're very careful to look at sizing our equipment for the building and not blowing transformers up, et cetera. So overall, efficient.
So how many of the local population businesses have Hestia units? Even a percentage, are you guys at 10%? 30, 50, like where do you think?
So ours 50 megawatts. We're just about 2 megawatts so far. So it's still a little in its infancy now. We've got 6 in Quebec that our manufacturing partner who actually builds the units in Quebec, he replaced oil furnaces. It's a little different of a model where he's paying 6 or 7 cents power, but he's eliminating oil. Plus, he built our data centers, built our units, so he understood the Bitcoin side of things. So it doesn't make sense for us to say we'll go in and maintain and et cetera. But that type of stuff now, you get more and more of companies coming around Quebec. We've got a few people in Manitoba interested in our equipment as well. But you've got to pay for the heat anyway. Bitcoin is the byproduct at that point. So that's one of the taglines that Hestia has had, like heat is the product in this unit. If you need heat even a few months of the year and your price is decent enough to make it make sense, Bitcoin becomes free generation at that point for the times that you need heat. So that's the market we started in, and now we've developed products all the way down to 3 kilowatts where we can go in homes, garages, residences, commercial offices, et cetera, where in Labrador, we still don't look at that model where we give you free heat for a small unit because I'm not going to go to a person's house and change the filters at 2 in the morning or whatnot because the machine's acting up. But you give somebody, you say, look, you've got to pay for the heat anyway. It's very cheap, your heating costs compared to most places, but why not make money while you do it? There's no such thing as a smart heater until we came along.
And you guys, as I mentioned, really, I think, revolutionized and started that conversation of get heat to the people. Don't worry about Bitcoin. And to your point, as the price goes up, people are like, wait, what's that device doing again in my house? Like, I want some of that Bitcoin, which is good. You want to bring the person across the journey. And when it comes to local customers, are they coming from the US? Are they coming from other cold climates as well? Or are you really focused just on the Canada market and kind of that's where the growth has been?
So far, the growth has been mostly here, like Labrador and Quebec. Now, Quebec is 46,000 megawatts of hydro energy. So we have about 10,000 eventually when it's all built. We're small compared to that, but 4 million homes in Quebec, whatever number of businesses. So that obviously, that market very close to us makes a lot of sense to go after. But our units, when we built them, our patents that we achieved on them, we just received a unitary patent for the European unitary countries, many cold climates in that area, renewable energy. So those are markets that we want to reach out to. We've certified the unit as an air handling unit for anywhere in North America. So for an electrical permit, you're not installing Bitcoin miners, you're installing a furnace. And it's just a tick box, just like a heat pump or whatnot on the note. So right now, like for our hash rate, for our decentralized development, we're looking at Labrador, but kind of the goal is if I sell 2 units to Manitoba or BC or whatnot, we'll take the revenue from that, put a unit in Labrador to build our hash rate. So goal being, we've got a team here at Block Lab that our hash rate technicians, a little bit more maintenance on having a vehicle to drive around versus having everybody on one site. You buy electric vehicles. So we've got a fleet of Ford Lightnings. It costs us next to nothing to operate. So really the OpEx difference is not much. 1.6 cent power on our traditional data center, 2.3 cents on the heater. Half a cent gets eaten very quickly when you've got snow clearing, property tax, all of these overheads that come with a traditional data center, along with the fact that you've got to build custom transformers and deal with outages when a transformer blows up, et cetera. When we're going in the 600 volt or 480 for many US areas, it's already there. It's already there oftentimes for heat. So we build the final step transformer into the unit. We actually capture the heat loss of the transformer in our process as well. So nearly 100% of the energy that goes into that unit is coming off as heat, and we're capturing it, allowing people to use it. So it's a really kind of what Satoshi intended in decentralizing the mining. And when we get into the smaller units now, the home units, that's micro data centers that can be installed anywhere.
And with these micro data centers, do you see the ability to do demand response like in Europe and other places as you expand? Or are you really truly focused on just providing them the heat? Or have you looked at that?
Yeah, so demand, it's something that we've actually offered. We have one of our sites, Block Lab does, we're the only curtailable non-firm customer of the province currently. We can shed load. We could do it within milliseconds if they wanted to on a frequency response. But right now, we actually developed the system for Newfoundland Labrador Hydro. They can call this 1-800 number that even I don't know the number to, but it will ring everybody's phones, let us know the site, let us know what you need, and we can demand response like that. Hestia is a perfect way to be able to do that on a bigger scale because every heater can be on our network, especially the ones that we own here in the community. The only thing with that is oftentimes when there's a grid issue, it's heat. Heat is what you want to keep. So that's the beauty of it because you can take people's heat minus 40. You can take the data center and shut it off. But if the data center is the heat, you can't shut that off. People will freeze. So it's a useful tool for other options, other issues other than a grid response because of heat. But that is something that we've talked about with the hydro utility. We can get very granular. Every one of our units is on that basically to show you what it's using at any time. You can pick a spot on the grid and say we need load response here, and we can log in and ramp the units down. So the hydro utility hasn't really felt like they need to take advantage of. We actually asked them in a public utility board intervention on their non-firm rates, how do you load control? What do you do for demand response? We opened the dam. It's basically all we can do. It's dump the water and make no revenue.
Yeah, and while they're saying that, they're like, duh, like, of course we do this. And you're like, well, do you have another option if the dam can't be opened or if you have an issue?
Yeah, or why would you want to? When you open the dam, that's revenue that you're dumping over the falls. So like as a public owned, your requirement is to make revenue. You should want to find a user of last resort. You should have somebody set up to be like, yep, we'll take it when you need it. We'll ramp down. When you don't need it, we'll ramp back up. We can do that on frequency if you wish, because everybody's doing it already. So I'm very hopeful that this new non-firm rate application that they have to file now in the next 6 or 8 months will get some more insight in. We've been very adamant. We actually appealed their decision. We're the only operator actually operating under non-firm rate. One of our sites here, actually in Wabush, was 14 cents in January, 14 cents Canadian when we were 1.6 cents last January. And their lines were froze up into Quebec and they had the falls up. So even that type of things that they didn't really foresee in these options where it's like, interruptible tariffs work for ERCOT. You should give us a user of last resort price. And if you need it, pay us to shut down. When you don't need it, we'll take that user of last resort. You never need to dump water. You can let us be your capacitor. So hopeful that they've learned over the last year or two while we've continued to operate these variable prices. Luckily, our Goose Bay site grandfathered in on the industrial rate that the iron mines pay. So for the iron mines, like I mentioned, if they saw a 700% increase like we did in January, they would have 2,000 people laid off and be completely shut down. So types of things where we want to build the education and let them know that these grids, even from your podcast with Dennis, the grids are operating more efficiently because of these miners acting as these load banks. Quebec and Labrador should be no different.
And I guess I feel like the energy industry and the local politicians that regulate it or on the boards don't necessarily understand what a 700% increase does to a local business, even to one that's energy intensive, to a manufacturing. If you are having that much fluctuation in your energy prices, you're destroying your manufacturing. And it seems like it's just like laissez-faire, like, oh, no issue. Like when you look at home energy prices in the US, it's 17 cents a kilowatt hour, 14 cents a kilowatt hour. Why is it so expensive? Why don't we, like, as a society, number one, care about our energy price, in your opinion? And number two, care about how that energy price impacts our community and the jobs we can provide to our community?
Absolutely. It's something that, like, coming back to, like you mentioned at the top of the call, asking how we were lucky enough to be in Labrador. It's one of those things where if I wasn't from Labrador, I'd be long gone. I'd be gone to anywhere, Alberta, Ethiopia, many places with arms open looking for people to come in and develop this industry. Luckily, I'm raising children here. I'm second generation living here. Luckily or unluckily, I guess you could say, because they don't get it. And the ones and zeros they don't get because they come out and say no cryptocurrency, but AI or other tiers of data would be fine. But like, how are you going to tell us what we're doing unless we ask you to come in and see what's on our shelves? Like, it's one of those things where anybody else, if you're going to open a McDonald's, they're not asking you, if you're going to be profitable or what you're going to do. They're like, if you want to pay for it, you pay for it and you operate your business. It's something that people are afraid of. They don't quite get. And you're right. They're not really thinking about the overall societal benefit that can happen. And we've built the internet companies, we've built the indigenous relationships, we've built many, many times. Those small companies that are part of our group of companies didn't have enough money to get a project over the finish line. Where did it come from? Bitcoin. We sold our Bitcoin and paid and loaned money here, loaned money there. So big bad Bitcoin that people are afraid of has built societal benefit, internet to underprivileged communities that would have not otherwise had a chance. We've done these projects, and it's something that it's, like I say, it's just a miseducation part that people are afraid of. That you might be a fly-by-night operator, but again, 30 of the 32 people, there's 20 plus of us that were born and raised here that would have left: software engineers, electrical engineers, network engineers. There's no other real high-tech jobs here for people to keep people in their home province. It's something that really should have a bigger light shone on.
And what I'm hearing from Hestia and Block Labs is that you guys really have a people-first, but also an engineering-first mindset. How have you developed that in the company, and what do you suggest other CEOs do to have a first principle approach to problem solving?
Well, I think the big thing, what we learned in Labrador versus somebody, say, in Montreal or somewhere else, if you have an outage, you're down and you're in the middle of nowhere. So spending that extra money, you've got that good, fast, cheap triangle where you can do something, two of the three, good, fast, and cheap. And many times people pick fast and cheap. And then they're up and running, but a transformer blows up or something like that happens and you're in trouble and you didn't build to the right quality. For instance, even if like a firefighter response might not show up and actually help with an issue because they don't know what you've got in there, they don't see any drawings, etc. So that's something that we learned very early on, luckily, because the engineer that we hired was an iron ore engineer, 25 plus years innovating at the Iron Ore Company of Canada, which has a very, very low tolerance for near misses or issues. They want to engineer to the highest standard and be the best practice setter.